Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video and the final video of the year for hobby hoppers. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Steph Williams. I'm a paper crafter in Queensland and I am lucky enough to be a magic maker for the small business hobby hoppers. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this card. First off, I'm going to be going through my stamps and dies and just pointing out all the ones that I had planned on using. Instead of mice today, like I would normally go for a card like this, I decided to go with the squirrels. They are just such funny little characters and I don't feel like I use them anywhere near often enough. So they're coming out today to create some mischief. Here I am stamping out all my images. I've got a bunch of boxes, some small letters, the giant acorn, a few accessories from the Bar Humbug stamp set, which has proven to be one of the best stamp sets for Christmas accessories this year. I'm going to also stamp out a few little things to put inside the boxes, and of course the labels for them. I'm going to be colouring all of my images in with a mix of Copic markers and regular alcohol markers, doing some very simple blending just to give everything a little bit of dimension. I won't show you how I coloured in all of these images because a lot of them are repeats, so I'll just show you one of each of the boxes and some of the letters, and then I'll do the rest off camera. Something I forgot to do when I was stamping these boxes was to stamp the sticky tape on top, and I know it's such a little detail, but I love all the little details that Lawn Fawn adds to these, and I did them all by hand and I got 2 out of 3 perfect, so that was a win. And the third one you can't even really tell. So anyway, back to colouring. I'm using a lot of browns in this card. I went with a very simple colour scheme. I've got my browns, some blacks, some red in there, and just a tiny pop of green at the top of my card that I add a little bit later. I think if there's anything I've done well with this year, it's probably keeping to minimal colour schemes so that my cards don't look like a bit of an overwhelming colourful mess. I feel like when I limit my colours, they look much more put together and much more neat. So while I'm colouring in, I thought let's talk about the theme of this card. So it's a little bit of a different card. It is still kind of Christmas themed, but it's a thank you card and there's a lot of parcels. If you haven't guessed already, I made this card as a thank you for delivery drivers or postal workers who are dropping parcels to your house. This time of year is just hectic, and with all the postage delays and craziness that happens at Christmas every year, and in particular I think this year and last year, things can get a little bit wild, and I'm sure that delivery drivers cop a fair amount of probably misplaced anger and frustration. I know not all of them are perfect, and we've had some pretty average ones in the past, but the ones we have in my area, at least over the last few years, they've all been wonderful. They're all super kind. I've only ever had one leave a parcel on the very top of the gate, and I am practically 5 foot nothing, and our gate is over 6 feet tall, and I had to get my husband to come grab it, because if I had opened the gate, it would have just fallen either on me or on the other side of the gate. But out of the many years having lots of parcels delivered to this house, we've had a pretty good run. I figured something as simple as a card with a little thank you on the inside might be enough to keep them going during this time. And cards like this aren't just great for postal workers, they're also a great idea to send maybe to the owners of your favourite small businesses that you've been buying from. Because let's face it, those people are packing your orders just like presents and sending them to you and bringing you so much joy when they arrive. And speaking of which, I would love to say a huge thank you to Trish for having me as a magic maker for almost all of this year. Hobby Hoppers is a one-woman show, so Trish does everything from uploading everything to the website, prepping for new releases on her own, packing orders, sending them out quickly, and on top of that she still has time for messaging and my late night texts about the new releases and everything craft related, coffee related. And she doesn't know this, but when I first announced that I was going to be a magic maker for Hobby Hoppers, I had a bunch of people who were mutual followers of ours message me and tell me all of these things about how lovely she is, how she goes above and beyond for them. And just hearing these things before I had even made my first project, it just made me realize that this brand is special and that Trish is a gem in amongst all of these small businesses and small business owners. And I'm just super thankful that I got to represent such a wonderful little business this year in ways that I never knew that I would be brave enough to, like doing my first live show. It has helped me grow so much as a creator not just in subscribers and followers, but in skills and my ability to take on challenges that scare me, and maybe help me be a little bit more organized because I have to do one video a month, and although we agreed on the second Tuesday of every month, I think I've pushed a lot of them back, but they have all been done. We have not missed a month, and in my chaotic world, that is a win. Making videos every month for hobby hoppers is truly a highlight in my crafty work, and I'm really grateful to Trish for taking me on, taking the chance with me, being a content creator for her small business, and of course so grateful to all of you who tune in and watch the Hobby Hoppers Magic Maker projects. I can't wait to see where next year takes us. I have been loving my texture backgrounds with my Lawn Fawn Stencil Paste. Today I'm mixing a little bit of my white stencil paste with a tiny bit of Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink. This just changes up the colour slightly so that it's not white on white cardstock. It just makes them pop a little bit more and they don't get lost in the background. Once I'm done smoothing all of this stencil paste out, I then go over it with my knife again and just kind of kick it up in all different spots. This is so that the background isn't perfectly smooth. While it looks great smooth, there's something about this texture that I really like. It makes it look much more realistic. I'm just using my X-Acto knife to cut a hole in the tops of each of my boxes that are open because I want to stick some things in there. And here are those things. So I'm just laying down a little bit of PVA glue before sliding in these other stamped images that I've cut out. So one of my boxes is going to be full of acorns. Another one is going to have the giant acorn, which the squirrel is very excited to see. I'm going to be popping a bow on that one because it's obviously an extra special parcel. And in the last box, I'm going to have a little bottle of hand sanitizer, as I feel that is just still a very relevant item in all of our daily lives. And I'm also popping in a little scarf, mostly because it's adorable and I could colour it in to suit the colour scheme really well. I'm also adding a little Santa hat on this second squirrel, even though his expression doesn't quite show him being very festive. So you may have noticed that this card is a front door, and I don't own the door die that Lawn Fawn have. I have the window die though, so we're turning that into a door today. I cut it from some black cardstock and some grey cardstock. I'm using the black for the frame and the grey for the little panels on the inside. I'm scoring them to give it a little bit of texture and dimension, and I'm just going to simply pop these grey panels in the place to fill out the door. To do that, I'm adding just a random piece of grey cardstock on the back. This is going to hold everything in place. And it's a piece of scrap that just hasn't matched any of my cards for a really long time, so I'm putting it to good use. Once that's stuck down, I'm then going to add these little panels in, and most of my door is done. I have been dying to use my thanks stamp set, and I'm going with a big one today. I'm really excited about this. So I've got some red cardstock, again to match my colour scheme, and I'm using this stamp. I love the detail in this word. There's just something about it that looks really nice, and it fills up the gap really nicely down the bottom of the card. The rest of my sentiment will be on the inside, but I figured a big thanks is going to get the point across on the front. For this, I'm using my Lawn Fawn white embossing powder. And it's really funny, I got super distracted. I put my embossing powder on, put the cardstock down, and my daughter was calling me, telling me she had to use the potty. And when a toddler says they need to use the potty, you don't wait, you run. So it wasn't until the next day that I came back and heated this up. So I heated it from the back because I wasn't sure if my embossing ink had maybe totally dried, and I was really worried that my heat tool would just blow the powder away. So I'm doing it from the back, which gives the perfect view of that powder melting. I wipe off the excess anti-static powder with a microfiber cloth. As this is the next day, my background was well and truly dry and it had curled up a little bit, so those creases in it are from me folding it in the opposite direction, trying to get it flat again. Here I am adding my double-sided tape onto it now, not later once all of my dimension is in place and at risk of being smooshed. This will save me a lot of trouble later on. And now it's time to start assembling. So I'm going to be starting with the floor, as it is just the perfect place to start because nothing else can be stuck down without this in place first. I'm adding lots of PVA glue onto the back of this. I figured this is the best adhesive for sticking onto a textured background, as the glue can seep into all the gaps between the bricks. I just don't think I would get the same adhesion with double-sided tapes. So I ended up cutting out a bunch of other little things from some dies to decorate the front of the store. I've got some of this decorative plant from the fireplace die set. I've cut 2 of them and I'm going to cross it over and kind of intertwine it a little bit so that it gives it just a bit more body. It was looking a bit thin. And the other pieces that I've cut are from the campsite die set. It's the little lantern with the pieces that go behind it and create the little flame. I thought they would look really cute hanging on either side of the door as little lights. So here I am gluing those two pieces of this plant together. And because I hadn't done enough colouring for this card, I then also had to colour in these little lights too. Once I was done colouring, I then assembled them. And you'll get to see me struggle for a minute as I tried to work out how to stick the little flame in there. Truly not one of my greatest moments. Here is where the little light bulb went off, and I realised that flipping this over would make things 1,000 times easier. And this is where things start to get serious. Everything is now going to very quickly come together as I set up this scene. So once again, I'm loading up this door with lots of PVA glue so that all that glue seeps down into the cracks of the bricks and holds onto it well. It's a little bit funny thinking about how I made that whole brick background and we're really only seeing some of the edges of it. Totally worth it though. The look is really nice and the texture turned out great. So I'm starting out first with sticking in my middle layer of boxes. I was playing around with this a little bit off camera so that I had worked out kind of where I wanted to stick them. I like to think I'm that adventurous where I would just stick them down and go with it, but that's not me. I totally planned where I was going to put them first. At this point I realised that my little excited squirrel wasn't stuck down, so I had to stick him in there too. And speaking of this squirrel, I really feel like this squirrel is me in a Lawn Fawn stamp. If I'm not the tiny mouse falling headfirst into a bag of marshmallows, I'm the excited squirrel opening parcels. And he's holding his little Christmas list, so maybe this was a big item that they were waiting for to arrive in time for Christmas, and it's here. I'd be pretty excited too. Waiting for presents is so stressful, especially as we're getting so close to Christmas. I'm then going to stick my planty bunting, whatever you would call it, at the top. I also make an extra bow for this a little bit later off camera because I felt like it needed something in the center. I added some foam squares to my row of lower boxes and I've stuck them down slightly overlapping each other. I feel like this gives it the look of heaps of dimension. I also added some foam squares to that second bow that I had coloured and to my little lights. And I just love how they turned out. I think they're a really cute addition to the front of this card. I then added my second squirrel, this little guy with the Santa hat and holding an acorn. And I'm sitting him behind the big box of acorns. And can we just have a look at this little guy's face, just for 1 second? He really has this look where he's kind of like staring off into space, maybe letting out a huge sigh over the amount of acorns that have arrived. And seriously, he reminds me so much of my husband. Every time I get a parcel arrive at this house, that's the look on my husband's face. And this poor little guy just looks like he's thinking, oh my gosh, where are we going to put these? Our house can't fit 75 more acorns. And oh my gosh, look at the one she's just opened. It's bigger than me. I showed this card to my husband and he totally agrees. That is 100% him. After getting this squirrel and the giant acorn stuck to my fingers about 5 times, I managed to stick them down too. And I'm going to just fill in the gaps a little bit with some of these letters, just to add to the chaos, because why not? As if this pile of parcels can't get any more exciting, we're just going to add some letters to it. And I had to add the last letter at the very top of the pile, and then I felt like it had a kind of Christmas tree shape to it, which was just perfect. Before I stick my card front onto my card base, I'm quickly going to add my sentiment on the inside. And it's going to say, for all you do, and then in brackets, seriously, thank you. And I think that is a really nice sentiment, and it goes so well with the theme of this card. I then remove the backing to my double-sided tape, and adhere my card base onto my card front. And there we have it. I absolutely love this card. These squirrels just make me so happy. They're so funny. I hope they made you laugh too. Maybe you relate to the squirrel opening the boxes. Maybe you're the squirrel a little bit concerned about the amount of acorns coming into your house this Christmas season. I'd love to know which one you are in the comments. Don't forget to check out Hobby Hoppers. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this tutorial. And please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.